Welcome, friends, to the Campus Ministry Today podcast. I hope wherever you're listening from, it's a beautiful day on campus. And our prayer is that you're getting to share the gospel with students, make disciples, and see students give their lives to see Jesus lifted up among the nations. And we're coming to you live from Via Students HQ, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Steve Shadrack. Shad, how are you doing, my friend?
Brother, I'm doing okay. Seem like daily challenges, but I'm here not to complain, but to keep my eyes focused on Christ and not allow anything to destroy me or trip me up. But life has a way of humbling you. I've kind of noticed that over the years, Clayton.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing. And when people ask me, college students, of course, after you're over 25, every college student thinks you're old.
Yes, of course.
I just say stay away from 40. It's a trap.
Yeah.
And so I guess as the decades happen, it just gets a deeper and deeper trap.
It can trap you, and you get to a point where you got nothing in life except Jesus. You just come to the cross, you look into his eyes, you stick out your hands, you say, I got nothing. I got nothing but you. And so really any tragedies, difficulties, obstacles that come your way, we just build them into our schedule on a weekly basis just so we won't be surprised. So
you schedule out your own personal tragedy.
Exactly.
Okay, I love it.
That's right.
Well, that's probably my favorite podcast intro we've ever done, Chad.
There you go, bro.
But so our current guest, Bryce, thank you so much for hanging through that conversation. But Chad, you've known our guest for quite a while. Y'all have a shared history, and so Chad, why don't you Bryce will introduce himself, but why don't you share, man, how long have you known him? What's impressed you about Bryce?
Well, let me think. The Civil War was over in 1865. No, we don't go back that far, of course. But Bryce has been a longtime warrior for the Lord with the Navigators, and I love the Navigators. And their founder is one of my heroes. And I was trained in college with the Navigators, so I get to have gotten to do all kinds of things over the years with the Navigators, learning from them, and then they bring me in to train their staff or just do different things. So my love for them, and of course they're headquartered in Colorado Springs at Glen area. It's just kind of a little piece of heaven on earth right there where their headquarters is. But so Bryce has been a long time leader, especially on the campus ministry aspect, and has been a real stalwart, I think, for the Nav College ministry. He's going to tell us about it, but about 20 years ago, developed something called Nobleman that really has impacted thousands and thousands of men, and I think they're focusing now on giving women opportunity to be involved as well. He'll mention that, I'm sure. But they've also, a number of them have formed a new organization called Oaks International that is just a couple of years old, and they are on different campuses around the country. And Bryce is now in Fort Collins, where Colorado State is. And so I just have such respect for that ministry, that organization, those leaders. So anyway, Bryce, we want to hear you introduce yourself, brother. Give us a few little insights that maybe I didn't cover about you, your family, your ministry, brother.
Yeah. Well, Shad and Clayton, it's awesome. It's an honor to get to be with you guys both. And Shad, I think I think we first met through Fuel and the Flame 1.0. Back when man, we're cut from the same cloth. I love this thing, and so it's been great over the years. I don't even know how long it's been, but fun fact, Shad, is you mentioned Dawson Trotman, the founder of the Navigators. Dawson is my spiritual great grandfather. So the guy who led me to the Lord, his dad was one of Lorne Sanny's key guys.
Mm.
Oh,
And
man.
yeah, and I found that out after about 20 years after I came to Christ. This guy led me to the Lord, and then he disappeared. He's a youth pastor, and he got run off because he was reaching the party kids like me in high school, and the church wanted more of a babysitter. So he took off and has run a Chick-fil-A for the last 35 years, and he ministers to high school students at his Chick-fil-A. But he called me about 20 years later, and he said, a guy named Lorne Sanny? Yeah, heard of him once or twice. He said, he's my dad. He discipled my dad. And of course, Dawson to Lorne, Lorne to his dad. And so it's pretty neat. But yeah, my wife Susan and I met at the Navigator Training Center there in Glen Erie, the same place her folks met 30 years before us. So it was
Oh man.
pretty neat.
Mm.
And then we have four
Wow.
kids, a couple of them in college, another one getting ready to go to college, and then a little bonus baby who's just 11. And so she's being raised by a completely different set of parents, of course, when she came into the world when I was 43. And yeah, whatever you want to do, go ahead. You know? And so. Yeah,
Exactly.
but as Steve said, we just recently moved from Oklahoma. We've pioneered campuses all around the country, and when we started Oaks, we realized, man, we really want to be decentralized and not have a headquarters. But quite a few of us were in the Rocky Mountain region, and so we've been trying to get back to Colorado for a few decades, and so Lord led us to Colorado State here. So. Yeah, so I work with Oaks now primarily, but then with Nobleman is where most of my time goes. And we're connecting with ministries all over the country that are doing
Mm.
campus ministry that
Mm.
Nobleman uses as a tool in their
Wow.
ministries.
Man, that's amazing. And friends, if you're listening to this, you're missing out. Like the view behind Bryce, like he is suffering for
That's right.
Jesus.
That's right.
But Bryce, I mean, you've been on the show before, and Nobleman Resources, and we could have you talk about a ton of different things. Um, Discipleship, developing men and women, but something that you've written about, and you've been practicing and learning about is just this idea of resting, prayer retreat, running at a Sabbath pace. And so, I mean, kind of first question, is that something you've always done? You were just born a mystic and you could do that, or is that something you've had to grow into? Tell us kind of how this came about.
Yeah, anyone who knows me, Clayton, that listens to this podcast is gonna get a kick out of me being compared to being born as a mystic. No, I would say I'm much more, probably like many of our listeners, I'm much more born a Martha. My default is Martha, where
Mm,
rather than I have to really work to be Mary, to sit at
yeah.
Jesus's feet, and yet probably like all of us, you can step back and see, man, anything lasting, any real fruit that you want to see in the ministry, it usually comes far more from sitting at Jesus' feet like Mary than it does me running around like Martha, stirring myself and others into a frenzy. And so it's always been um, a struggle, and yet a real goal of mine is that I want to abide deeply in the Lord. I want him to have my gaze and not feel like he's that guy that you're in a conversation with that's looking behind you. You know,
Mm.
I want to feel like the Lord is really my eyes are fixed on him, and that's true of my ministry. But boy, I tell you what, I've had to really work at it. And so yeah, I'm uh, continuing to have to daily and monthly build in rhythms, and annually build in rhythms to be able to slow down. I love Psalm 46:10, the be still, know that I'm God, I'll be exalted among the nations. There's a
Amen.
God, and it's not me. So just slowing down, and yeah, life is far more enjoyable. I enjoy the Lord, and I think I'm probably more enjoyable to be with, and a better leader when that's the case. So
Mm.
yeah, so those prayer retreats, Clayton, that I've done, that's part of one of my rhythms of trying to really force myself to slow down.
Man, I love it.
I love Psalm 46:10. Of course, most people leave off the second half, right? I will be exalted. They say, "Oh, I'm just going to rest." Oh, well, there's a second part to that. I will be exalted in the nations. Okay, uh, but then Psalm 73:25. Whom have I in heaven but thee?
Mm,
And besides thee, I desire nothing on earth.
mhm.
Mm.
My flesh and my heart may fail. Oh no, it will fail. But God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. So I think that's kind of a companion verse, that Psalm 46:10, you know.
Yeah.
But that phrase, I know what taking a Sabbath is, Bryce. If we take a Sunday or a day to rest and turn off the TV and the social media and all the work projects and take a spiritual and physical, emotional break. But what did the phrase you say? Was it I'm going to work at a Sabbath pace,
Yeah,
or
I think
in other words, every day I'm going to work at some sort of a Sabbath pace? Is that, unpack that for us, if you would.
yeah. I think, it was Exodus 34:21 where it says, 6 days you shall labor, but on the seventh day you shall rest, even during the plowing season and harvest. Even at fall launch, you got to rest. But I realized I had a staff one time, Shad, and I always ask when staff are leaving staff to give me an evaluation of me, my family, my ministry. We do life together. And she said, Bryce, I remember in multiple times I've heard you say for some people, life is more of a sprint than it is a marathon. It's a series of sprints than it is a marathon. She said, I think that's true of you, but you run a series of sprints within a marathon.
Oh boy.
So you don't ever slow down.
Oh.
And it was very right. She was very accurate with that. And so, yeah, so I don't want to run so hard that during those 6 days, that on the seventh day is me just trying to sleep through the whole day
Just
so that I
recover.
can get
Mm.
up and do it again. So,
That's a good
and
point.
I think a lot of that, with time, the longer you minister, the less important you see yourself, where, you have to. That's what that Psalm 46, hey man, calm down. Like, be still. I'm God, it's not you. And so to me, that Sabbath pace is recognizing in Nobleman, we talk about this idea of taking off an imaginary crown. So you guys have heard that phrase, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yeah.
Um, it's from Shakespeare. The original wording was uneasy is the head that wears the crown.
Hmm.
And I find that I'm uneasy because I never was meant to wear a crown. So when my eyes aren't focused on Jesus, and I oftentimes ministry can be deceptive. I can do a lot of ministry out of the
Yeah.
flesh. And man, we got to reach students. People are going to hell. We could raise. I want me to make an impact. I want you to have an indelible legacy. And a lot of that is Bryce getting excited about Bryce's contribution rather than exalting Jesus. And so if I slow down and I go, Lord, this is your ministry, and I want to see it be lasting. I want it to really be, I don't want students just to come to a Bible study for 4 years or lead, and then they
Yeah.
quit laboring. Which we had a 20s ministry once we were meeting with, and we said, hey, none of our students want to connect with you. Why not? And
Oops.
it was kind of us in a sense saying, hey, you guys aren't really making disciples anymore. Like, we send you these great students all ready to go. And he said, I probably shouldn't say this, but can I be honest with you? Your students, when they meet us, they don't want to connect because you ran them so hard that they feel like they've graduated that. They're in the workplace and they can't run at the pace that
Oh
you were
boy.
running them. And I
Oh
thought,
boy.
ooh, and that's no good for me to run a campus ministry that a student says that was the most fun I never want to have again.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
did that for 4 years, and now I'm no longer I can't labor because I don't know how to translate that into the workplace. So I think, over the years I've learned more. God, what does that mean to help people labor for a lifetime? And so much of that is helping them fall in love with Jesus
That's good.
and enjoy Him. They're gonna be far more like, I mean, you guys know they often won't continue laboring no matter what. But if I've not really helped them gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, as you were saying, Steve, they're certainly not going to labor.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have met so many that once they graduate, have felt burned out in ministry.
Mm.
And you know, NAV, STUMO, other ministries that might be listening to this, we don't gear down during the summers. We gear up during the summers, you know. And so, you know, when does that break ever take place? And if you're a student leader, you do feel the pressure to have to be at everything and to carry the load and your summers, your weekends, your everything. And that sounds very noble, if I may use that word. But is it real life? Well, certainly once they graduate, is that a balanced life that they're going to be able to maintain? And it's really not when you throw work and family and ministry and marriage together. But this idea of a prayer retreat, we wanted to hit on that with you,
Yeah.
Bryce. I'll be honest; it's been a while since I have taken a day of prayer or a prayer retreat, and because I think I have the same disease you've got. You know, I'm so focused and busy on things that I do pray, but to take a whole day, that sounds intimidating to most Christians and overwhelming. Uh, and even your audience, they're church based and campus based collegiate workers around the United States, a number of other countries. Just give us some baby steps to get started, 3 or 4 practical steps for a day of a prayer or a prayer retreat for these workers and volunteers that are listening or watching today.
Yeah, thanks for your honesty, Shad. I think that's probably true of most people in campus ministry or any ministry for that matter, right? It's just hard to think, man, how am I going to slow down? Where am I going to fit this in? And that was the case for me for years. One of my best friends and I had a retreat with a bunch of Navigator staff, and this pastor met with us. And this was probably 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. And he said, you know what? Everywhere I go when I speak to people in full-time ministry, I have one drum that I beat. And I tell them, you need at least 1 to 2 times a year to get away for 2 to 3 days at a time. And he said, I've never once had anyone argue with me. I always, people jot down in there, write, oh yeah, that's good. I need to do that. And he said, there's been one time in all the years that I share that somebody's actually taken me up on it and came back
Wow.
to me and said, "Hey, that was really important." And you know who that one guy was? It was my closest buddy that was there with me. It's Joe Mashoff, who's now the international president of the Navigators. And I thought, man, I see the difference in Joe as his close friend. I could
Yeah.
tell if Joe hadn't had his getaways. Hey, bro, you probably need to get away, don't you? And then as I began to incorporate those, Joe could as well. He said, have you had your biannual getaway? So for me, it's Christmas and summer.
Mm.
And I miss probably one of those every few years, but for the most part, for the last 15, 20 years, somewhere over Christmas break, 2 to 3 days, and somewhere over the summer, 2 to 3 days. And boy, I don't, in fact, I can confidently say there's not a time in life or ministry that a significant life change has not been directly impacted by those times away with the Lord. And so, yeah, so I plan them into my schedule. I encourage my staff as well to get those. They're not mandatory, but I encourage them to get those getaways. And I find that those help me in having that getaway. It helps me live at more of a Sabbath pace. It's kind of like get back, get a retreat, assess everything, figure out why are things so crazy. In some ways it's an after action report too, where you're looking at the
Mm.
last semester going, how did it go? What are our weaknesses? And it's just time with the Lord. So yeah.
So if I'm a college worker, I find a day somewhere. It could be weekday, weekend. Uh, Somebody lends me their little cabin out in the wilderness. I make sure I leave my phone and all my distractions and things away, and I bring my Bible, bring my journal. Okay, I show up at 8:30, and I'm going to go till 5 o'clock. I brought my little snacks with me, maybe.
Yeah.
What do I do for those 8 hours? How do I
Yeah.
divide that up? You know.
Well, I'm so glad you put it that way, Steve, because if you put it that way for me, I would have never gone. That sounds so,
Right.
8 hours. What am I gonna do?
No, please, no.
So I see these times as like this is a awesome chance for me to just go rest and get time with Jesus. So and he can lead us wherever. they usually have kind of a similar pattern now, but they're so enjoyable. It's not something that I go, oh, I should probably do this. I got to check it off my list.
Sure.
It's just me with the Lord. Um, I honestly, I usually, this sounds pretty spiritual. I usually start them off with a nap. I go, okay, if I'm tired, and as you said, I'll have a supporter or somebody that'll have a cabin. But I often will just price line a Airbnb, hotel, something like that. I try to keep it simple. I've tried camping. For me, I'm too easily distracted, and there's stuff all over, and I
Hmm.
don't do well out in the woods. If I'm killing something and I'm on a hunt, that's great. But if I'm there with the Lord, I'm just too easily distracted. So I try to have it just be simple. Um, I do keep my phone off, as you said, but I have idearrhea and I have to write things down, and
Hmm.
there's usually something that I need to do with my phone. So I regulate it, but I don't not take it with me because I am far from a mystic, and it is so incorporated into life and ministry.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for me, those times are a lot of times I'll journal and I'll look back through my journals,
Okay.
and I notice it's really helpful to see what God's been up to. I'll even, I'll look back months or even years and kind of go, huh, Lord, you are working in me. Or, oh, here's some of the things that I've prayed. But
Hmm.
for me, scripture memory is such a just enjoyable part of my life that I bring tons of old verses with me, and that's like hanging out with old friends. I'll just go back through those verses, and I might go on a walk. I switch it up. Colossians there, it talks about Epaphras is always wrestling with you in prayer. I think he's probably wrestling with his attention span. That for me, when I'm wrestling, we're probably wrestling with the unseen realm, but I'm wrestling with my attention span. So I have to
Yeah.
switch things up. So sometimes I'll schedule a call with somebody where I say, "Hey, I want to pray together during that time," or I'll realize I'm getting a little distracted here. But I just kind of, as I go, it needs to be enjoyable, or I won't do it again.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
do try not to think about ministry stuff until the last day or the last bit of time that I'm there. It's more just me. Early on, I'm going, Lord, I'm praying things like Psalm 139, search me and know me, O God. See, is there any offensive way, or are there in Hebrews where it says, today if you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. 3 times he says it, right? Lord, are there ways that I have been calloused or so busy that I'm not hearing you? My posture for the weekend is like where Samuel says, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." Or is it Eli? Tell Samuel, "Hey, next time, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" That I just kind of come in and go, "Lord, I want to hear you. I want to enjoy you. Where do you want to take it?"
Okay.
And he usually meets me in pretty cool ways, enough that I want to come back. We usually don't sign up for something that uh, Jerry Bridges once told me, discipline without desire is drudgery, and then you stop. And
Yeah.
so it's gotta be something I want to do, and I make it enjoyable.
You know, I love that. You're talking through that, and I'm like you. I mean, like us. Like I'm more of a human doing than a human being. And so I love how you said, I've got to do things that are enjoyable, and it's also I'm not locking myself in a prayer closet for 8 hours. Um, one of my pastor growing up early in ministry, he would say, when you pray, if your mind wanders, just bring it back. Just bring it back and keep going,
Yeah.
don't throw everything out. Um, so, and probably some of our listeners have done this too. Like you run at a pace through the semester and they're like, okay, I'm going to take a retreat, but you're just so kind of burnt and fried that the retreat really is, I'm taking a nap or I'm stressed out or I can't even stop my mind or I'm detoxing from the adrenaline. You know, um, how do you, what's the rhythm where it's sustainable, where you run the race where you're not burnt by December, like
Yeah.
when I think through like when Moses was children of Israel and he had to send his wife and kids away, and that's the moment his father-in-law shows up and says, "Hey, this was a bad
You
idea.
got to learn to delegate.
Yeah, if you're doing ministry at a pace your family can't handle, then you're
Yeah.
you're not doing it right." So how do you run that race, like that Sabbath pace that we talked about earlier? What are some
Mhm.
practical things that you do to say, "Hey, this is me, so I'm not killing myself or my staff or my students"?
Yeah, yeah. Practically, by the way, on those prayer retreats, I always have a notebook or a note on the phone that I'll get back to this later. So all the things that come up, I want to think about, ideas, I need to take care, put this fire out, deal with it later. That helps me
Mm,
calm down. But and that's true in my quiet times as well. I've got a space in my journal where get to this later. Right now, this is just me and the Lord. But
mm,
yeah, I think one of the as I look back on my ministry and disciple making ministries that I speak to or consult with, one of the phrases that I like to say is the default for most ministries is they fall for addition at the expense of multiplication.
Mm.
And not
mm,
only does that make you ineffective, if you're just trying to, what I mean by that is how do we just gather numbers? If you have 500 students showing up to your meetings, you probably start to feel pretty good about yourself. But then say they start dropping to now you only have 100. Now you only
Mm.
have 50.
Mm.
Then your boss is going to go, "What are you doing? You're doing something
Mm.
wrong." And so what
right.
do? You go, we got to do whatever it takes to get more people here. So you start thinking addition, and Jesus just didn't minister like that. In fact, as soon as he started getting momentum, all of a sudden he starts talking in parables from that point forward, right? And then he starts saying stuff like,
Yeah.
"Eat my flesh and drink my blood." He is looking for long-term multiplying laborers. And what I found is for me, if I'm willing to counterintuitively do that, um, it calms the temperature down from everything. Now, I still want to, when people say I'm not about numbers, I think, what's wrong with you? Every number is a soul. Every number is somebody who we can reach, who can reach more people. What do you mean you're not about numbers, right? But
Yeah.
I think those numbers, it's counterintuitive to do it by multiplication, isn't it? And so for me, if I've got a mantra is after all my years in ministry is select carefully, train thoroughly, and
Mm.
trust deeply. And
Mhm.
so, if in my personal ministry and in my ministry that I lead, if I help folks select carefully and go, we're not just trying to get anyone we can. Shad, this was you. You really helped me in this back when I was pioneering my first ministry at Arizona. He said, don't just take anybody that shows up. All kinds of people are going to show up and want time with you. You want to be
Yeah.
asking God for men and women of promise. And so keep looking for those people, select carefully, get
Mhm.
people that are hungry and want to grow. I mean, think of how much time is wasted pushing a rope trying to get students to do something they don't want to do, right? It's a whole
Yeah.
lot of effort. So select carefully and then train those people with the expectation that they're going to be doing the ministry.
Mhm.
And so, like at one point, we looked at 100 things that we do in our ministry. This is at UC Davis. So everything from fall launch to Bible study to investigative Bible discussions, Christmas party, STP, all these things. And we asked which of these could students do without staff?
Mhm.
Which of these could students do with staff's oversight? And which of these should only staff do? It was super helpful to look at that and go, man, there's a bunch of stuff I shouldn't be doing. Um, I would say practically for me, Clayton, one of the things I do is I don't schedule any appointments unless it's an exception. I don't schedule any appointments before 10 a.m. So that may sound crazy, but what I've learned over the years is campus ministry is going to fill every part of your schedule if you let it. And so I start at 10 and I try not to schedule anything after 4 p.m. And yes, I do work more than 10 to 4.
Right.
But if I do this, if my schedule is out at the edges of the margin, then I'm gonna go way over. So I
Mm.
try to keep it small, knowing that I need margin. Otherwise, I'm running too much, if that makes sense. But how about for you guys? What are some practical ways that you guys you've learned over the years? You're both seasoned veterans. What are some practical things you've learned to keep things from running like a chicken with your head cut off?
Well, I'm now only working 10 to 4. That's my takeaway from this conversation. Shad, don't Shad'll text me at every crazy hour of the night when his ideas come. But I
I
think
think
Same.
I don't want to plan anything after 10 a.m. in the morning. I think is my takeaway here.
so. But
Uh,
I think
you're looking
go
at a
ahead,
very
Shad.
disorganized person. My dad. I asked him one time, Dad, is there any area of my life I need to work on? I felt sure he'd say, Son, there's no area. You're just the greatest son that could ever. He instantly said, Oh, you're a procrastinator. And I said, "Well, thanks, Dad. I'll start working on that. But I'll wait till tomorrow morning to get started."
Tomorrow morning.
No, I didn't say that part. But no, I am a disorganized person, and I struggle with details and administrative things, and so I don't get as much accomplished as I could or should. Um, and I don't take. I do take. I probably take more Sabbath type of breaks as older I grow. I will say that I'm not going 100 miles an hour 7 days a week like I was at one time in my life. So I've slowed down there. I'd like to defer that question to my colleague Clayton Bullion at this time.
Well, I Bryce, the thing that's been helpful for me in busy seasons is if it goes on the calendar, it gets done. If it doesn't go on the calendar, it doesn't get done.
Mm,
And so if I'm going to rest or I'm going to put margin in, then I've literally got to schedule margin.
yeah.
Um, and but recently, and so I've done that. I've been in that practice for a while. But just recently, like full disclosure, the thing that's killing me right now is killing my rest is my phone.
Yeah.
I look up and it's like, wow, I just wanted to check my email and now I'm doom scrolling reels about, whatever.
Right.
And so about 3 months ago, I was doom scrolling and this stupid ad came on and was like, hey, do you need to turn your phone back into a brick phone where it
Rick.
doesn't. And so I
Yeah.
I I bought 2 bricks,
Did you
and
really?
one's in my hanging right there in my office, and the other one's at my house. And literally,
Does it
for those
help?
of you that are trying to, yeah. So I brick my phone in the morning, and I brick it in the office several times, and it basically just shuts down all my apps that
You
waste my
brick it.
time.
What does it mean to brick it?
Isn't that crazy? So it's this little stupid device where you just kind of you install the app and you scan your phone and you choose what apps that it blocks, just 100% blocks. You can't get to it until
God.
you go back to that device. And so I've found, like in the mornings, like I wake up, first thing I do is I brick my phone, so my social media, my WhatsApp, my email, like all that stuff is off limits.
Okay.
So I'm
Mm,
not picking my phone up during my time with the Lord. If I'm trying to
mm,
focus in the office,
yeah.
and because I've got an addiction.
Yeah.
I can't self-regulate very well, and so I've just started blocking my parts of my phone that I'm like I can rest. I don't
Yeah.
have to pick it up and find myself scrolling.
Yep.
I'll
I
come
think
down
another
each morning if you
practical,
want me to, Clayton, and slap you. If that would help you. I don't know.
another practical thing for me is I usually pick a word every day, every year. What's the word of the year, Lord, you want me to focus on? And like you, Shad, I'm all over with ideas and things I'm wanting to do. I'm not an organized person or structured. I have to really work on it. But my word for this year is, in Romans 12 there where it talks about let him, if his gift is leadership, let him lead or govern diligently. The
Mhm.
Greek word there for diligently is spoudezo, and it means now. So what's the opposite of now?
Later,
Later.
later, later.
Which to me, it's just been helpful even this year to go, okay, am I gonna be able to do this now? Or is it going to be this or something else will get put off? Usually it's I
Mhm.
want to do what just came on my radar that sounds fun or more exciting.
Mhm.
So what's important gets put off the later. So
Yeah.
that's been key. Psalm 131 has been a kind of my measuring rod. It says, my heart is not proud, O Lord, my eyes are not haughty. I don't concern myself with
Mm.
great matters or things too difficult for me. So that's been key to go, God, is this going to be too difficult for me? And I have very low objectivity. when it comes to deciding that, I have to ask my wife or friends or my staff,
Mm,
is this too difficult right now? Yes, we should do it later. Or we could probably pull that off. So yeah, which I've found even with helping my staff, everyone tends to have low objectivity with their pace. They're either running at way too fast of a pace and they need help finding the brakes, but they don't know that. If you tell your staff, hey, we're working way too hard, the lazy ones will go, yeah, I need more disc golf in my life. They're the ones that are raising $100,000 and they're working 30 hours a week. But the one who's working way too hard, when you say, guys, we need to get after it, you're speaking to the lazy guy. That guy thinks, I'm only working 70 hours. I need to just do more. And
Yeah.
so
yeah.
I find it's helpful for my staff, for me to train them in their Sabbath pace and to be effective in what they're doing and model that for them. The Dave Bowman, the guy who trained me, he was never in a hurry. We just realized, man, this is probably what it was like hanging out with Jesus. He was just never in a hurry. And he got more done than three normal people, but he was never in a hurry. He always had time for you and he planned well and didn't take on things that he shouldn't. And so
Right.
I want to be like that.
Clayton, we need to let this man get back to his life. We're dominating his schedule here. He's shared some awesome things. This has really been an episode, Bryce, about prayer, yes, but also balance and how do you
Mm,
maintain health in the different areas of your life and the proper margins and uh, if it's going if life and ministry is a marathon, not a sprint, we better pace ourselves properly. And I haven't done a very good job doing that, but um, man, I want to thank you for giving us amazing insights and wisdom and being honest about your challenges through all this. And I think the church-based and campus-based collegiate workers around the United States, around the world, can really benefit from that. So I thought it was a
yeah.
great session, Clayton. I was
Yeah. It's been
encouraged to,
powerful.
yeah.
Bryce, thanks for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us.
Yeah, man.
And
It's great to get to be with you guys a bit. And
yeah, it's been so good. And friends, we've talked a little bit about biannual prayer retreats. Bryce has got a really great article on that, and we'll drop that in the show notes, as well as some other resources on retreating. But we just really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Campus Ministry Today. And just be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Check out viastudents.org for more resources, articles, tools on how to do evangelism, disciple making, missions mobilization in your context. And our prayer is that stuff like this helps you be equipped, encouraged, and inspired as you serve in the strategic mission field of the college campus. And so until next time, guys, thank you.